Hello, I'm Dan, the Lettings Director from the Property Centre in Taunton. Today I'm talking about when things go wrong, rent arrears and evictions. Owning a property and renting it out can make for a fantastic investment. You own an asset, you're getting paid a rent, which will hopefully cover your costs of owning an asset. And what you will hope is that asset appreciates over time. However, a lot of people don't know how bad things can be when you have a tenant that falls on hard times, is unable to pay, and you need to look to evict the tenant. So today we're going to go through that. So the average time it takes to evict a tenant is 22 weeks. The average rent roughly in Taunton is about £1,000 per calendar month. So using that as our average, that is at least £5,000 in rent arrears. And that's just the amount of time it takes to evict a tenant. So that's assuming that there's not already rent arrears, which is why you are looking to evict them. So let's say a minimum of £5,000 in rent arrears, that's money that you won't be receiving. So for the 22 weeks it takes to get that tenant out, you're going to be paying for the mortgage yourself and all the other associated costs without the rent coming in to help buffer that. Possession claims have increased by 22% in the first quarter of this year comparing to the first quarter of last year. There's been a bit of a backlog off the back of people not being able to do this over COVID, but it's a bit of a funny market at the moment, so it's not surprising to hear that the rate of repossessions has gone up. Tenants are more financially stretched now than ever. Rent increases have been ridiculous over the last couple of years because of competition, other factors, as well as the cost of living crisis, inflation. A lot of tenants are very financially stretched, meaning the likelihood of them finding themselves in a situation where they can't pay the rent is much higher. It's a tricky one because there's a lot of landlords that demonize tenants for not paying rent, but ultimately, if you're cutting it very thin with finances and you're in a situation where you have the option between feeding your family or paying the rent, I think most people in that situation might opt to feed their family as opposed to paying their rent. So, yeah, tenants are very financially stretched. The competition for rental properties is absolutely through the roof at the moment. We are having multiple applications on pretty much every single property we have available to let. This is relevant to you owning a property because if you serve a tenant notice, and it's really difficult for them to go and find another property, they're going to be stuck in that property for longer, dragging out the possession process. The average court costs are between £1,000 to £3,000. So you need that money sort of set aside for worst case eventuality. This can amount a lot if it's contested, if there's anything that you've missed in the setup process. This can drastically become higher than that, but the average being between 1,000 and 3,000. So, with 3,000 being the highest and 5,000 being the rent arrears, your property could soon cost you £8,000 in lost earnings and court fees. If you don't have that money set aside, that could cripple some investors or buy-to-let landlords. A lot of people end up letting out their property accidentally, so they don't forecast for this kind of thing. They end up with a property that maybe hasn't sold, or they move in with a partner and they want to keep a property as a safety net and let it out, and they don't think or prepare for things going wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, I've probably set up about 1,000 tenancies in my time, and I can count on one hand the amount of situations where it's being this drastically bad, but it can happen, so it's certainly worth considering. So what is the answer? First things first is to pick a great tenant and to reference them rigorously. This is why we do so much for marketing, professional photography, drone, video, social media stuff. We do a lot to get a property out there in front of as many potential tenants as possible and attract as much interest as possible. Reason being is we can then cherry pick somebody who we feel is going to be a safe option for a landlord. What we then do is we reference them. So all of the things that they've been accepted for, their income, their credit score, their current landlord, and what they have to say about them, we check and we look into all of that. That's a really good indicator of somebody who's likely going to be a safe bet. However, referencing is a snapshot in time. You might reference some people now who've got £500,000 in income between them and their credit score is perfect and the landlord loves them, but there could be an accident at work, there could be a separation, something could happen at any point throughout the duration of that tenancy where the tenants find themselves on hard times and in a situation where they're going to struggle to pay the rent. So referencing gives you a very good indicator of how things are going and how they're likely to keep going. However, things can change, and it's worth bearing that in mind. So picking a great tenant is obviously your first step. However, what we wholeheartedly recommend a lot of our landlords to do is to protect themselves against worst case scenario. So as part of our package, we offer a rent and legal protection through HomeLet. What this offers is essentially 15 months of rental cover if the tenant is to fall into rent arrears and you go about evicting them. So 15 months of rental cover. This should far cover the amount of time it takes the eviction to kick in, essentially. So this is 15 months in worst case scenario. So obviously 15 months or until the property is vacant, you get possession back. So that should cover even some of the worst case scenarios. On top of that, there's £100,000 in legal cover. Obviously, this being the average cost, the £100,000 in legal cover is more than enough. We're so passionate about this project. We're so passionate about this product that we offer it to all of our landlords at cost, meaning we don't make a penny on arranging it. It is 2% plus insurance protection tax offered on top of our management fee to all of our landlords. So with the average rent being £1,000, 2% of that is 20 quid a month. It's not really a lot, is it? In the grand scheme of things, £20 a month to protect you against a potential £8,000 loss, in my opinion, for peace of mind, is certainly worth having. This is what it looks like when things go wrong. Doesn't happen very often, but it's super important to protect yourself against this happening when it does.